All right, so on number 1, what would the LCD be? 9. Okay, so we're going to multiply everything by 9 over 1. All right, so now we can cross cancel. So that's 2x plus 5 equals 8. All right, so now we can just get x by itself. And then divide by 2. So 3 over 2. We want to simplify fractions if they simplify. Don't change them to decimals. Don't change them to mixed fractions. Improper fractions are fine. All right, so number 2, what would the LCD be? 6. So let's multiply everything by 6 over 1 now. We'll cross cancel. All right, now we're just going to get x by itself, so we could subtract the 2 over. Simplify. So 1. All right, so number 3, what would the LCD be? 12. All right, so we're going to multiply both sides by 12 over 1. Okay, we'll cross cancel. Subtract 3 over. X equals 7. All right, so problems 1, 2, and 3 had the variable x in the numerator on all of them. So now we're going to look at what happens when there's an x in the denominator. So our variable's on the bottom. All right, so this is where excluded values come in now. So we're not allowed to divide by 0. And so our excluded values are also called extraneous solutions. And so when we solve these equations now, we have to check our answers to see if it's an excluded value or not. So the first thing we do is check or state what our excluded values are. So for this question in number 4, 3 over x equals 5 over x minus 2, what would the excluded values be? 0 and 2. Right? So we've been doing excluded values since 4.1. All right? So you should know how to find those excluded values now. Some of you guys still don't know how to because I saw it on your quiz. You just take the denominators and set them equal to 0 and solve. All right, so 0 and 2. And so now we're going to go ahead and solve this. So what would the LCD be now? What's going to clear out those denominators? Lowest common denominator. You had to do this with the fractions. What is it? Okay, so x minus 2 will get rid of the x minus 2, but it's not going to get rid of the x. Not x squared minus 2. X times x minus 2. All right? So remember, x and x minus 2 are totally different terms. The x minus 2 is a binomial term, and the x by itself is a monomial term. All right, and so all you can do is to get rid of the x and the x minus 2 is to multiply it by another x and an x minus 2. Okay, just putting x minus 2 here cannot cancel the x out. So that's why we have to throw in an x to cancel it out. All right, so cross-canceling, the x's cancel. All right, and now I can distribute the 3 in. So 3x minus 6. The x minus 2 will cancel. 5 times x, 5x. All right, so now I can get x by itself. I'll subtract 3x over and divide by 2. And so you get x equals negative 3. All right, so we're checking our answers now. We're going to check it against the excluded values that we wrote. As long as our answer isn't one of the excluded values, we can keep that answer. If it's one of the excluded values, then you can't use it. You have to cross it out, and you can get no solution as an answer now. All right? So you have to check your answer against the excluded values. All right, so let's turn it over. Yes? It's not, so you can't use it. You would cross it out, and then you would write no solution. All right, so on the test next Thursday, you're going to have a few solving questions, and each of the questions is going to have 3 parts to it. The first part is going to ask you to state the excluded values. The second part is going to ask you to state the LCD, the lowest common denominator. And then the third part is to tell me what the solutions are. All right? So you can get points for each one, okay? Or you can get points for all of them if you get them all right. All right, so we want to practice, each of these. So we're going to state what the excluded values are, what the LCD would be, and then what the solution is. All right, so number 5, what's the excluded values? Okay, it's 0. So 0 is the only excluded value to this problem. Okay, again, take the denominator. As long as there's a variable in the denominator, you can set it equal to 0 and you solve for x, or whatever variable's down there. That's your excluded value. All right, what would the LCD be then? 12x, good. All right, so our lowest common denominator is 12x. So now we're going to multiply everything by 12x over 1. And we'll cross cancel all the denominators out. All right, so the 3 and the x will cancel with the 12x and just turn it into a 4. And 4 times 4 is 16. Plus. The 4 will cancel with the 12 and turn it into a 3. Be careful, the x didn't cancel out. So 5 times 3 times x is 15x. Equals. The x will cancel with the x, and 3 times 12 is 36. So now we just get x by itself. All right, so we get 20 over 15. We can simplify this fraction. We could divide by 5. So that would be 4 over 3. All right, so then we just check it against our excluded value and make sure it's not the excluded value, and 4/3 is not the excluded value. So we can keep that answer. So the answer is 4/3. Yes? I divided the top by 5 and the bottom by 5. We'll find a calculator that simplifies fractions. All right, so number 6. All right, our excluded value. What would it be for this problem? What is it? 3 and negative 3, good. Now remember, to get your excluded values, you want to make sure all your denominators are factored. Okay? So b squared minus 9 can still factor. It's in the denominator, so we want to factor it. 1, because it's really easy to see what the excluded values are going to be, and 2, because it's going to help you get the LCD. All right, so again, our excluded value, negative 3 from here, positive 3 from here. That's still negative 3, that's still positive 3. We already have it. All right, so what would the LCD be? Good. B plus 3, B minus 3. So you need both of them to cancel these denominators out. Okay, B plus 3 times B minus 3. All right, so then we'll just multiply everything by that LCD. All right, and then we'll cross cancel. We have to distribute 7 into the B minus 3. So that's going to be 7B minus 21. Bring down the addition sign. B minus 3's cancel. We'll distribute the 5. So that's 5B plus 15 equals. The B plus 3 and the B minus 3 cancel. And we just have 10B minus 2. We'll combine like terms on the left side. Now, make sure you understand, when you're combining like terms on the same side, you're not adding the opposite. So I have a 7B and a 5B here. I'm going to combine those together. I'm not subtracting 5B here and subtracting 5B here. You don't do that when they're on the same side. You do that when they're on opposite sides. Okay? So 7B plus 5B is 12B. So just be careful with that. All right, and then negative 21 plus 15, I can combine those. That's minus 6. All right, so now I'll get all the b's on one side. I'll subtract 10b over. I can add 6 over. And then divide by 2. 4 over 2 simplifies to 2. All right, again, I'll check it against my excluded values. It's not one of the excluded values that I wrote, so I can keep the answer 2. All right, last one. All right, what would the excluded values be? Okay, 6 and 2. Again, the x squared minus 8x plus 12 has to factor. So use your x method. 12 on top, negative 8 on the bottom. Need two numbers that multiply to positive 12, but add to negative 8. Negative 6, negative 2. All right, so again, we can see our excluded values are positive 6 and positive 2. What's the LCD? Good. X minus 6, x minus 2. Now we'll multiply everything by x minus 6, x minus 2. Right, so then we'll cross cancel. So the x minus 6 cancels with x minus 6. 1 times x minus 2 is x minus 2. The x minus 2 will cancel with x minus 2. I'm going to distribute the x in, so that's x squared minus 6x equals. X minus 6 and x minus 2 both cancel out, and you just have 4. All right, I can combine like terms, and I'm going to put this in descending order because there's an x squared in this problem. All right, so this is minus 5x. Now, anytime there's an x squared in the problem that you're going to have to solve, you got to think you're going to have to factor it. That's the only way that you're going to be solving these is by factoring. And you can't factor unless it's in descending order and it's equal to 0. You got to have a 0 on one side. Okay? So I have to subtract the 4 over first. So x squared minus 5x minus 6 equals 0. So now I have a trinomial. Okay, 3 terms. I use the x method for factoring. So negative 6 on top, negative 5 on the bottom. So 2 numbers that multiply to negative 6 but add to negative 5. Good, negative 6 and positive 1. Now remember, those are not the solutions. Those are the numbers that go into the factors. X minus 6, x plus 1. Now I can set those equal to 0 and solve it. So for x minus 6, it's going to be x equals 6. For x plus 1, it's going to be x equals negative 1. All right, so those are my 2 possible solutions, positive 6 and negative 1. Now I go and check against my excluded values. Well, positive 6 is one of the excluded values, so I can't use it. Negative 1 is not. It's okay. So there's only one solution to this problem, which is negative 1. So even though I found 2, only one of them actually works.